Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, #1 Amazon bestseller, Meredith Calloway.
Hello, and welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. I am your host, Meredith Calloway, and on today's episode, we have Lange Taylor with Taylor Luxury Travel. He's got a list of credentials to be a guest on the podcast. He is a travel MBA alum, so he did go through our travel MBA program in 2021. He is a top producer club member for 2026. And he is also in the phase 4 of the business. So he's a $1 million advisor. He's a 7-figure travel entrepreneur. And so I'm going to have a lot of fun unpacking Lang's entrepreneurial journey in the travel industry. So welcome to the podcast, Lang.
Thanks, Meredith. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just before I hit record, we were chatting a little bit about Lang's background. So I'm going to start there. Why don't you talk? Because Lang is a perfect example of the kind of person that we've actually catered the Travel MBA program to. It's someone who had a very successful career and is ready for that next chapter, ready for the opportunity to actually build a career around your own passion. So talk to us, Lang, about what you were doing in your prior career and what was the spark that got you to take this leap of faith and jump ship and follow a new path?
Yeah, for sure. So I was in advertising before. So in the agency business, I was an executive in advertising in New York and then Atlanta. And that's just all on the agency side, all kind of managing big corporate clients, kind of in all industries. But I did a lot of financial services industry work with American Express, Citibank, Capital One. But, on the other side of the spectrum, Domino's Pizza and, Xerox back in the day and, US Postal Service, it kind of, ran the gamut. But after graduation, I moved to New York, kind of back in the mid 90s when I went to New York with a one-way ticket on Kiwi Airlines and didn't have a job or a place to live. And it's like, that just seemed perfectly reasonable thing to do. And I had a job within like 2 days and no place to live still,
Wow.
which is classic New York. But yeah, I just kind of jumped
Yeah.
right in the advertising business. I was an ad major and I thought I was gonna go to law school. I was tired of school, and I'm like, "Well, I might as well let's just go to work. Let's move to New York. That'd be amazing." And I thought it'd be a one-year plan before law school, and it's turned into, 15 years, and so it was fun. It was a blast, and I loved advertising. I loved the social aspect of it, and it was, go, 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 very busy, building a team, and I just kinda progressed in my career in the ad world. And then I ultimately was asked to go run one of our offices and regions in Atlanta. And after a while in New York, you kind of get, okay, that one bedroom apartment kind of vibe. What could I have elsewhere for the same? So Atlanta was attractive, and I'm from Columbus, Georgia originally, so it gets me closer to family, and so we moved down there, and it was great. I think ultimately, after gosh, I'm cutting, a career that spanned a long amount of time, but cutting it short to say that, I was just kind of ready for something different. And
Mhm.
when I was in Atlanta, I could have moved back to New York, to stay on that path,
Mm.
I think. But at the same time, just on the side, I got a part of the WSET Wine Scholar Guild program, kind of a hobby that got out of control. I love wine and collecting wine. And I started, well, let me get a degree in that, some sort of certification, and that'll just be fun. So I started doing that just on the side, and I became, yeah, I guess I got a level 3 advanced certification with that, where you can kind of do something with that as a career, maybe. But
Mm.
I was in Atlanta, I wasn't in Napa Valley, so it was the kind of thing
Right.
where, okay, I'm just gonna hold on to that and, think maybe one day I'll, do advertising for wineries or, who knows? And so I was just kind of rocking along doing that whole career with my wine on the side thing, and the spark was really COVID, as most people,
Yeah.
had that happen. We're all working from home, and I was doing a lot more consulting at that point, and it just felt a little like not inspired. And I was
Mm,
just, I was like, what am I doing? And I think as part of that kind of second career, dreaming kind of
mhm,
thing, I was like, well, with the wine thing, maybe I could do wine travel. Is that even a thing? And that'd be cool. And because a lot of my travel, I spent a lot of time in the Napa Valley and a lot of the European wine regions, just how I like to travel. And like, what if I could do that for other people? I was already doing it for other people, friends and family, because they just
right.
they just tell me where you went. And I want to go where you went. So I just kind of was doing that research and loving it. I'm like, wonder if I could ever do that as a career. So when COVID hit and everybody was kind of like examining their purpose and what they want to do next and not knowing where the world was headed, a friend of mine had already connected with GTN, was like, hey, I've already kind of done some of the research. Do you trust me? Just kind of let me tell you what it takes to kind of get into this business. Because I'd never worked in travel before. And I said, well, yeah, let's just do it. And I attended the Book More Travel workshop at the time, and I kinda left that thinking, "I'm just gonna do this." It'd be so easy to just stop what I was doing in the advertising and marketing world and
Mhm.
just jump in while nobody was making any money in any industry at the time, at least in my world. Um, it just felt like a perfect kind of moment to see if I could make it work. And that was in
Yeah.
2021, and I just kinda got started then and just kind of decided to jump right in and go full feet first and not try to do maybe I did a little bit of a old world, new world for a couple of months, but I just quickly decided I wanna sunset that and start this new career, and here we are.
You couldn't have timed it more perfectly because you didn't have to go through the bulk of the pandemic difficulties,
Right.
and you also timed it as the growth, the surge in demand for luxury travel began. So I love that. It's a great story. But from what it sounds like is you weren't like unhappy, you weren't burnt out. You were probably losing a sense of satisfaction with your career. And I love that you were very aware of not only a passion for travel, but your passion for wine. And what a cool way to tap into that, to bring that wisdom, that passion to designing itineraries around high-end food and wine tours. It's just so, so cool. So I talk about the phases of the travel business journey, where phase one is up to about $200,000 in sales. Phase two is 200 to $600,000 in sales. And that's what I call the break even phase, where you tend to generate enough revenues to cover your expenses, but really no profit there. And then it's not until you hit phase three that you start to see some profit. And phase four is six figure earnings where you can actually live a life, you can support yourself. Um, can you think about your time going through those different phases? Did you go through them faster than you thought you were going to? Was it slower? Talk to us about your relationship with that journey.
Yeah, no, I wish I could say it was very planned and methodical and, strategic but I do feel I did go through those phases probably faster than I thought. I think when I started, I mean, honestly, I on on the booking travel side, I'd never booked a hotel as a travel advisor. I mean, I
Yeah,
didn't know anything on how to
yeah,
of course, know how to book a hotel myself, and all those things, but I just never
yeah.
done it from a business perspective. So,
Mhm.
to me, a big win and, kinda getting in was just, how do I book a hotel? My first booking was a Hotel Indigo, for like 300 a night. I'm like, "I've done it," I'm in. I think I made $15. But it was like but it was I made money, I'm like,
Yeah,
"Okay, well, that's something." And so, that was just motivating for me at the time just to know, "Okay, I'm on the map."
yeah,
And so I think from there, I was just my initial strategy, obviously having gone through Travel MBA, I know the value of, establishing your niche and making sure you're going after the right client and all my marketing background and everything else, I
yeah,
knew how to do it. But all at the same time, I was kind of like because I was learning, I just looked at that first phase as a learning phase. I'm like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
kinda knowing I probably shouldn't say yes to everything, I kinda said yes to everything, and in hindsight, I shouldn't have done that, but at the time, it felt like the right thing to do because I was just learning
Yeah.
how to do stuff, how to get the hotels done, how to work with DMCs, and when you talk and then I started to think, well, okay, my the right target is just, people who are in luxury travel, and then I quickly realized, well, there's also fit. There's also clients you really just don't wanna work with because they're
Yeah.
maybe not aligned in your values and respect for each other, and so those are all just kind of learning, so I kinda took everything that came my way, but once I realized, maybe after that first year, which is kind of that first phase, first 2 years, then I felt that growth, and I just there's only so many hours in the day. So I started to really think, "Okay, let me get back to my niche. I wanna do food and wine travel." Certainly in luxury, and it became easier to say no to the non-luxury,
Mm. Yeah.
because it just freed up time. I didn't have a team, and
Yep.
I was like, "Alright, because there's only so much time in the day, those I don't wanna say less expensive, people need to travel in the way they need to travel. If I was helping them on trips that I wasn't making as much money off of or as much, frankly, adding as much value to,
Mhm.
that was just as much time as the bigger trips. So
Yeah.
it's if I say no to those, I can start focusing more in the luxury space where I want to be. And that just was a good learning to realize if I just free up time in my day, say no to that stuff that's dragging me down,
Yeah.
then I can go after the bigger stuff and focus on referrals and making sure everybody knows I'm in luxury. So I started to feel bad sometimes when people come to me, it's like, well, I just need a 4-star trip to, Florida, and I understand you're in the luxury space. I don't know if you're like, so my reputation, I think, started to kind of build, and that became
Yep.
easier to say no to, right? And
Right.
I could refer people, and here are ways to do that. So I feel good that I was able to kind of focus, and that kinda got me to that next phase because, again, I had no ICs, I didn't have the ability to scale other than just hours in the day myself, and
Mm. Yeah.
and I
So you
it's
just
just
had to
better
go
to.
after higher transaction sizes.
Right, exactly, and then frankly, just doing the work I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to focus on bigger trips, more interesting trips for me to plan, things that aren't you can't do yourself. I just kind
Mhm.
of geek out on that, and that to me is
Yeah.
why I started this business, and
Yeah.
so the more of those kinds of trips I did, the more I realized, well, that fits my purpose, that I'm
Yeah.
doing things for people they can't do themselves, and that just kind of gave me a little bit more, excitement, and so I'm like, "Well, more of that, less of the other," and
Yeah.
that all of a sudden, I was just, booking bigger trips, and I was never afraid to say no. I've talked to people in the industry who are like, if a client comes to me, with something new I've never booked before and it's $100,000 trip or whatever, I'm gonna say no. A lot of people were scared of that. I was never scared of it. I'm like, "Well, God, I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I mean, how hard can it
Yeah.
be?" So,
I love that. But
but,
man,
I
does
mean,
that that's rare, you know?
well,
It's
it's
much more
only
common for people to be, like, so intimidated by that, and they just
well,
sabotage it.
it was
Self-sabotage.
intimidating, but frankly, the best I mean, it's a GTN thing because
Mm.
I had a good network. I could
Yeah.
talk to people. I know that people are willing to help, and if there are people that I've become close with in this community that I could say, "Hey, what in the world? How do I do this?" So all the things that I knew, I didn't have to start Googling.
Yeah.
I could really rely on some expertise and get some help. So it just became easier to say yes to things I hadn't done before. And as soon as I did it, then I've done it and I can do more of those. So
So,
yeah.
the first couple of times where you felt like that inner no, my guess is it was colleagues or possibly even friends or family that were coming to you with a request that you knew was a no. What could you share, like, how did you say no?
Well, and in all full disclosure, I'm still not great at saying no. Like that's just my I'm a client service person through and through, so always what I can do, yes, and but I think that said, I could just kind of I started to the ones I know I need to say no to, I could just kind of I could smell it a mile
Yeah,
away. It's like
yeah,
it's the rate shoppers, it's the people
Yeah,
who are just break down the pricing for me, do
yeah,
all they're less about, they're less about, make this easy for me and I just wanna make an incredible experience for my family or whatever it might be. When it was a little bit more about, money talk and, just getting, find me a deal. I mean, you could just kind of hear those trouble words coming your way, and
yeah,
that was easier to say no. And then sometimes when they were just too small, it's like, can you book me 2 nights at from, I wanna take my kids to Florida, like I mentioned that. There are great hotels in Florida. I book hotels in Florida. But, it was like, just make this a great spring break, and we wanna kind of do something really easy in Orlando, which is not my niche, and, I think I started to and I did a few of those trips, and I realized that's just not what I'm gonna be excited about, and so
yeah,
I started saying no more to the stuff that didn't fit, but
yeah.
also for the things that just didn't excite me, because it's not fair to clients who want they need that expertise, and if it's not something I'm excited about,
I
I may
think
not
that's such
do a
a
best
good
job.
point right there, is like that. I think that's a really helpful way for people to get over that guilt of saying no, is that when you're saying no to a client, you're actually doing that client a favor, because it's not fair to them to take business that doesn't feel aligned, that doesn't light you up, that doesn't you're not gonna be as good, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly, and
so
I would say yes to those, A, because maybe they're an existing client that I do big trips for, and I don't want them to feel
mm,
like they're gonna go somewhere else, so there's a little bit of a scarcity mentality thing
yeah,
going on there because I
right,
just worry if I don't take on that trip, they're never gonna come back to me. So
yeah,
that was one, and then the other is just, when I would take on those trips, it became that to-do list item that you're just kinda like, "Ugh."
yeah,
It just goes to the
yeah,
bottom of your priority
yeah,
list, and that's not fair to those clients,
yeah,
and you just don't enjoy working on it, and
yeah,
that I know when it came around next time, that just made it easy to say no.
yeah, for sure. So I wanna talk about branding and marketing, especially considering your background. The GTN, or the Travel MBA program, spends a lot of time, especially in the first portion, diving deep into helping people identify their brand and create a brand for themselves that's really custom to who they are. Given that you have spent a massive amount of time in the branding and marketing world, especially for such big names, do you feel like that helped you? Do you think it maybe hurt you as well? I mean, how did you tap into that wisdom when you were developing or designing your brand?
Yeah, it's a great question because I loved that work because of my background, because I felt like, "Oh, I can do this. I know this." And I think at
Yeah.
the time when we were doing all that work in Travel MBA, I think, you probably don't remember this, but I submitted like, everybody gave a one-liner. I think I submitted, like, a 10-page PowerPoint presentation
I
because
do
it's
remember
just kinda
that
how I
now.
do branding. So and it was a little probably over orchestrated, but I loved that. I thought it was kinda fun doing it for my own brand. So I
Um,
loved that work. I still question now, like, I don't know, could my brand be more unique? And you start to kind of go into some of these things, and I don't for my business, I don't do a lot of marketing other than word of mouth and referrals. So
mhm.
I'm not using the brand outside of, at least from an advertising perspective,
Yeah.
certainly client experience, and all the marketing that goes into client documents and all that stuff is there. So I think it's helpful. I mean, I'd like that work. I think it's interesting when you look at, other agency models where they don't have a brand at all and they're just part of the bigger agency.
Mm,
It almost it's easier, because they're just who they are. I think the challenge there sometimes is how you scale. Like, if I'm
mhm,
gonna get to a point where and this is a decision point I'm trying to figure out now, is like,
mm,
do I wanna get bigger? If I do, I need a team. If I that
right,
means bringing on more people. Is that my brand? Is that GTN? Is that how do you think about all that? Because
mhm,
I feel like my brand now is me, even though I've
mhm.
got the brand and my identity and whatever, it's Taylor Luxury Travel, it's Lange Taylor,
Yeah,
I think my clients still think of it as me. They don't think of it as
yeah,
this agency they're working with, even though
Right.
it's in all the documents and partners, it's GTN. So there's a little bit of a, I don't know, is it GTN? Is it Taylor Luxury Travel? Is it me? It's all of the above. It's
Mhm.
Virtuoso.
Yeah.
I think what my clients like mostly is the Virtuoso part because it kind
Yeah.
of it immediately credentializes me because
Yeah.
they have exist most of them will have an existing notion of Virtuoso. Okay, check, he's in the luxury space. I know Virtuoso. I feel
Right.
good about working with Lang, if they're a new client.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if that answers the question. I mean, I
It
love the
does.
branding. I love the branding work. I like where I'm at with it. I'm not necessarily using it a lot now because I'm more leaning on my Virtuoso association and my GTN association.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's kind of all of the above.
Well, I think you answered it better than you even realized because I think you brought so much excitement and enthusiasm for the branding process to it. And because of that, I think you landed on a really, really solid brand. And you said it yourself. Like the whole reason why we spend that much time in the Travel MBA program focusing on designing a brand that's unique, that's true to you, that's sincere, that's coming from the heart, but also stands for itself, right? Is clear, is because when you're in the luxury service business, if you can get the branding right and then, do the heavy lifting on the branding up front, it pays dividends for the rest of the life of the business. And you said it yourself, you don't really do much marketing. It's now referrals and repeat business. And that's the whole point of spending that much time getting the branding right at the beginning is so that you don't have to really do that heavy lifting. It's a sustainable way to grow the business.
Yeah,
Um,
I think to that point, I mean, I think what I got the most out of and I still use today, it's the hard work that goes into establishing the brand. A lot of times people think, "Oh, the brand is your identity and this brand is your name and brand is your what
mhm,
that looks like and your logo." That's just an element of branding. I think to me the work it took to okay, why am I doing this? What value am I bringing to my clients? What type of clients do I want to attract? What's my, talk track about why, I'm doing this and what value do I bring to clients? All of that work I use every single day.
mhm,
And
yeah,
that's all branding, whether it turns into an identity or not, I think that's the important work you need because otherwise you're like, I'll take anything back to where I started and
yeah,
it helps you focus. And
yeah,
that's branding. So I think that work I absolutely still use today and it's important
yeah,
to go through that process.
yeah, for sure. Hey, Travel Business Unpacked listeners, Meredith Calloway here. If you're enjoying the podcast, I've got something else I think you'll love. The book, The Seven Figure Travel Entrepreneur, is officially out now. It's all about building a business that's intentional, profitable, and actually sustainable, and leads to six-figure earnings. And I've made the entire first chapter free for you. It's my way of saying thank you for listening and being a part of this community as you build your luxury travel business. You can download it now at giftedtravelnetwork.com/book. Now, let's get back to the episode. So you are, just to get behind the scenes, open the curtain a little bit, you're a one-man band, you are solopreneur,
Yep. Yep.
no team at all.
I have a VA,
Okay,
that I'm probably using, half of her week through a
okay,
service that specializes in travel.
okay.
She's doing, admin work and helping me with itineraries and a lot of the back and forth of good old, fun restaurant reservations and all the things that take
Yeah,
so much time.
yeah.
And then, should we not? It's funny, I went through that just as a quick aside, like I kind of went through this. I'm not gonna do restaurant reservations. Then I realized I'm doing culinary travel. How do I tell clients I'm not gonna help them with their restaurant reservations? So anyway, I'm kinda stuck doing restaurant reservations. But, but no, I use, and work with that team, and she has some backups and whatever. This is part of their
Okay,
service model. So that's worked really well for me because it was an easy cost of entry. I mean, literally, I pay
yeah,
with my Amex,
Yeah.
and I didn't have to establish any sort of payroll and
And you're
whatever.
getting 20 hours a week.
Yeah, it's as much hours as, I need basically.
Okay. Okay.
But I think it's I just had a bit of a strategy, powwow with some other colleagues of mine, that I work with as part of GTN, and we kind of did our little mini offsite to come up with what do we
Oh,
want
I
our
love
business to be. And I need to hire. It's time. And I think my background, I had at one point I had 80 employees that reported into me through a
Oh
structure,
my
and
goodness.
I just kinda I had a team, and I think I
Yeah.
do miss having a team. I don't miss all that infrastructure of performance reviews and all the things that come with
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I need a couple people, like, that's
Yeah.
not 80 people. And I think, where I know I need to get to is, having administrative help. That could still be a VA model, I don't know. But
Mhm.
having somebody kind of as a mini planner, I call it, to kind of
Yeah.
work with me so I can just delegate and I can take on bigger things and there's smaller things that come in and I need that. I mean, I think I've
Yeah.
gotten to the point where like, yes, acceptance. I need that. So now I just need to kind of make a plan, figure it out, all the things that kind of go in that. But so far, yes, I've been a solopreneur and it's
Solopreneur.
just it's hard. It's not that it's hard. There's not enough time.
Yeah.
And then so when I'm dealing with trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's in a Travefy. At the same time, I'm trying to plan and do something and go see a DMC in Europe, and how do you
Right.
possibly do all of that? And I see other advisors who are traveling and doing things and that I just don't have time to do because I'm working too hard. I'm like, okay, I need to create a leverage model that can allow me to do some of those things and enjoy this business and not just be bogged down in the details. And the only way to do that, I think, in this point in my journey is to get some help. So, I've
Yeah.
raised my hand. I'm ready.
It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah,
Because it means
yeah,
that the business is growing naturally. And so you just need to operationally catch up with it.
right,
So that you can otherwise when if you don't, you're gonna put the brakes on that growth pretty quickly.
right. Even the technology infrastructure that goes along with it, the stuff that I don't geek out on, honestly.
Mhm.
There are other advisors and friends who love that stuff, and
Yeah.
one in particular I think about, I won't name names, but she's like, every time I come, she's, "Well, I have this app that does that." I'm like, "How many apps do you have? How much technology is in your stack?" It just stresses me
Love
out to
that.
even keep track of how many subscriptions you're paying for. But she loves that, and
Yeah.
and I think ultimately that's not what gets me excited. I don't wanna spend time
Yeah.
on that stuff. It's okay to offload that. It
Yes.
needs to get done. It's not
Yes.
something that I need. I need to delegate some of that stuff. So the technology, the infrastructure, the staffing, the help, all those things I need, and it's okay that you don't have to be the one, me personally, to necessarily figure it out as long as you can trust somebody to kinda help you,
Mhm.
advise you on what you need, and let's just trust me, let's bolt it on, I'll help you manage it. Great. That's what I need
And what
so
I
I can
love
focus.
about that is, and what I've witnessed with many of our top producing agencies at GTN is that it when you have that opportunity to actually hire someone, even possibly on a full-time basis, help you run your operations, whatever it is that you feel like is not your greatest use of time, that is creating a job for someone that they will love, right?
Right.
And they get to throw themselves into not everybody's an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to create the job opportunities. There are a lot of people out there who like having that 9 to 5, that like helping, that like checking things off the list, that like customer service, that like booking restaurant reservations.
Right.
They don't wanna be the one to pick the restaurant because they don't really have that expertise, but they love, the to-do list um, and a lot of times it isn't even monetary, right? There's a lot of, people who are putting themselves in the workforce not because they feel like they need to bring more money home, but because it just is more fulfilling to live that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
I think that for anybody watching that and listening that, or is going through that journey of trying to
Yeah,
figure it all out, there's gosh, 100 different things you need to be
absolutely.
successful,
Mhm.
right? From branding to research to passion for what you
We
do
can't
to
wear all the hats.
you can't possibly, and I think people need to understand that that's okay.
Yeah,
Like, you can't possibly do all these things,
yeah,
well, and you're not gonna possibly have a passion for all of them, and the
yeah.
more people I meet, I'm always so surprised. I'm like, "Wait, you like doing that stuff? I can't stand doing that stuff." And you just realize that everybody's wired differently, and so
Yeah,
it's accepting that and then realizing where you need to delegate to get that help, to fill the gap that you may not that you may have that you don't wanna it just goes to the bottom of the to-do list because you don't wanna do it. And
yeah,
other people would be at the top of their to-do list because they love that stuff.
yeah.
So I think it's just trying to figure out, how do you play to your strengths and supplement your deficiencies?
Absolutely, absolutely. So talk to us about some of the I mean, I'm a massive food and wine lover myself, and so I'm curious, I wanna hear about some of the trips you're planning. Where are you planning trips to? Do you have favorite partners for that? Do you have any even tips for someone who does have a client that is a food and wine lover? Like,
Yeah.
where do you recommend they start?
Yeah, and it's a good question, and I think it comes back to also clarifying the trips I have. I have a specialty in food and wine, right? But I'm in the luxury space, and I wanna
Yeah.
do, big things, but it doesn't necessarily mean everyone is a food and wine trip, right?
Mm.
And I think I
Yeah,
realized that in the beginning when we talked about the riches and the niches and some of those things. It's you can specialize and be known for something
yeah.
without saying, "I only do that thing."
Yes.
I think that took
Such
me a
an
minute to
important
get.
distinction.
Yeah, it's like, so I can say, when a client comes to me, it's like, "I'd love to do amazing food and wine experiences or even a food and wine trip." I'm like, "I'm all over it." But most people like to have nice culinary experiences when they travel,
Yeah,
and I can help make sure that's part of it. But sometimes it's a family going to the Caribbean and they're like, "Oh, and by the way, we don't drink. And by the way," that's okay. I think it's not always about those types of trips.
yeah,
But when I am able to kinda geek out in the food and wine space, I love it. So in
yeah,
terms of, like, partners, I'm always trying to refine that. My go-to is always gonna be through GTN Preferred and then Virtuoso and trying to understand who kinda handles a lot of that stuff. It depends on the country.
yeah.
I wish there was this go-to partner out there. There's like, they specialize in food and wine. Maybe they exist and they're global and they've got it all covered. But most of the time it's, more local DMCs in country, that, I just need to kind of find. And that
Mhm.
takes a lot of research. And so my first way in with certain, let's just say there's a go-to, like IC Bellagio I work a lot with in Italy. We do everybody, we're doing a lot of Italy. They have a great relationship with wineries and culinary experiences because they've gone deep in that. And I know I can trust them that they can kind of help
Yeah,
me. I've had a client in the past is like, well, I'm a collector and I want to get into places, that I need to collect these wines that don't take the public. And a lot of times with those, it takes a lot more of me getting involved and just doing my own phone calls and just kind of getting in there because DMCs don't necessarily have that access. And I don't do a lot of those trips because frankly, those aren't really, leisure travel trips. They're almost like work trips.
right,
But I've done a few of them and they've gone well, but I'll rely on like a We Travel France and France because they can still do all the other things around it, and by the way, get them into some great wineries and do
right.
some really cool culinary experiences. But I did one in Croatia, working with a group on a yacht, and this was through Ocean Getaways, but we were able to identify a really cool chef experience on this vineyard in the middle of nowhere in Navarre, and that you kind of drop them into this vineyard olive grove setting with a chef and all this amazing wine, and it's just completely custom, and
Yeah,
that's the kind of and yeah, that's life changing for people. They kind of came back like, "Oh my god, I've never experienced anything like that," and I love that because they're like, "Yeah, exactly." I wish every trip I had did that,
yeah,
But,
Yeah.
doing those kind of experiences, and the only way I'd love to say I knew about them. I can't be in all these countries to know about them. I've gotta rely on these DMCs, and I'm always refining that. Like, whenever I can go deeper with a DMC who can really has a handle on that in a certain country, I will, because I don't know. Like, I had
Yeah.
an amazing experience in Patagonia and doing some, wine experiences, and Big 5 helped me create some really cool experiences there through their network that I would
Yeah.
never know about, in the middle of nowhere in
Mhm.
Patagonia with a cool, wine experience, gaucho extravaganza. It's hard to know. I don't really know what I'm asking for. I need
Yeah.
I need somebody to tell me, "Yes, that
Patagonia
exists."
and great wine aren't necessarily what you put together
Right, but I
automatically.
but I think that was a big eye-opening moment for me getting into the business, because when I was doing my own travel with food and wine, I was just doing it myself. I didn't know what a DMC was. I was
Yeah.
contacting wineries. I was spending a lot of time on that stuff. So then when I realized I can partner with someone in country, they can do that research. They've got a Rolodex of partners. And by the way, they've been really good experiences for my clients. I can kind of trust that I don't have to figure out all those details as long as I'm being crystal clear on what the expectations are.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying, all of the above, but I'm still always trying to figure out. I do not have it figured out. I need a wine food specialist in every country, and I don't
Yeah.
have it yet.
Yeah.
And I that's still a goal, but I have
Yeah.
some really good go-tos that I use now, and that's good. But it can always get
And you
better.
have your own wisdom
Yeah.
that you're able to layer in to the process as well.
Yeah, like a good example of that is I'm working with a DMC in Italy right now, and so in Sicily, and it's a wine client, and they brought back a cool Mount Etna wine experience that typically is like, yep, check Mount Etna,
Yeah.
lunch, winery in the vineyard. Most
Mhm.
clients love that. That's what they're looking for. But this client is like, well, what's the vineyard? And I've got vineyards I have relationships with, on Mount Etna, and da 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 da. Da. I know I've got to go deeper into that, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to love to do. But I've got to really kind of do that myself, working with the DMC to say we've
Right.
got to really
Yeah.
customize this. That's
Yeah.
because we've got to wow this wine client.
Right.
It can't just be, the run-of-the-mill winery visit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I
Totally.
think that's the value I need to bring to the table,
Mhm.
even
I
when it
love it.
comes through, it sounds cool. I've gotta go deeper in it.
Yeah. And that and that's where the challenge for you comes in,
Right.
There's, like, the good challenge. It's a fun
Yeah.
challenge, right?
Yeah. But when I have
Uh,
those kinda clients, and with your background too, with safaris, like,
yeah.
those are my favorite,
Yeah.
because it's less about, I mean, it's about the wine, but these luxury lodges are gonna have amazing wine
Yeah.
on site. It's about those experiences, and when they're doing these amazing wine tastings in the bush, or
Yeah.
sundowners at the end of a drive,
Yep.
those experiences is less about the wine, it's more like, "What's happening?" The rhinos are walking up as we're toasting at sunset, and it's like, "What?" That's the kinda stuff that I love. It's less about make sure you have the right wine there, as long as you know it's quality and you can
Yeah.
trust the lodges to have it. It's the experiences, and back to the Croatia vineyard experience that you can't just buy into. Those kind of unbuyable experiences are really what wow clients the
Yeah.
most. And the more I do those, the more I realize, okay, every trip I do, I need that unbuyable experience. I need to have that as a signature to the trips I do, because then
Mhm.
it's not just something you can do on your own.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, now I wanna go on safari.
I know. I know. Every time I talk about safari, I gotta go back.
Gotta go back.
Uh,
Well, we are getting to the very tail end of this episode, and so I do wanna give you time to answer my favorite final question, which is, we're just so lucky to work in this industry. I wake up every single day so grateful that I get to do what I do, and part of this industry is the experiences that we get to have ourselves, whether it's research, whether it's planning something for someone else. So, do you want to share maybe as of today your favorite pinch me, I can't believe I get to do this for a living moment that you've had on your travel entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so there's kind of an early one and I think a consistent one now, which and the early one was the first time I attended Virtuoso Travel Week. I
Yes.
everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, prepare yourself, you're gonna be
Yeah.
exhausted," and I've done a lot of work travel in my career, and it was the best business trip I said at the time that I've ever taken. Just
Yes.
because I was new to this industry and I was meeting these amazing partners and learning about these incredible hotels and experiences, and, like, every single one, I was just, like, drooling. I mean, this is incredible,
Yeah.
and at the end of it, I was exhausted, yeah, but it was like, "This is amazing. This is what I
Yeah.
do now?" It was kind of like
Yeah.
and that there's a through line there, which is about the relationships because these are partners
Yep.
I didn't know. I was new to the
Yep.
industry, and I realized all these experiences you can do for clients. I just needed the clients and be like, "All right, when I have a client that wants to do that amazing experience in Patagonia, I know who to call." And then that was able to kind of fill those gaps as I started
Yeah.
into the business. So that was the first one, which is like, this is the coolest industry ever. Now, it's less about the pinch me is less about like when I'm doing these cool trips, that's more of the purpose of why I'm doing it. And
Mhm.
but it's still work for me. It's still, coordination. It's still making things happen, setting them up. I'm kind of getting into planning mode. To me, the pinch me is less of the I love doing the work and that's why I'm doing this. But it's kind of when I'm able to experience it too. And it comes back to the relationships. So I was able to go to Tuscany this past summer and, with IC Bellagio and visit some of these amazing, places. And that was another pinch me. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, you
Yeah.
forget what these
Yeah.
experiences really are like when
Yeah.
you're just planning it.
Yeah.
And when I was at Borgo Santo Pietro, and I was just blown away with the food and culinary program they have going on there. It was amazing, and it was just stunning. And then
Yeah.
we went to Castiglione del Bosco and got to stay there, and it was like, oh my God, wineries and the vineyards on property and the villas and so that was a pinch me. It was like, I gotta get out here more. So it's
Yeah.
it's less about, getting into this business for those perks. That
Right.
to me, it was those are
Right.
amazing. The fact that I could stay there, but it was about the relationships. Like, oh my God, this is a trusted partner. I know this person. We're kind of friends, and I'm able to come experience it for my clients. It's the relationships, and that's
Mhm.
what I love the most. It's a client service business, but the pinch me's from that first virtuoso trip to now
Yeah.
that I have my own relationships that I can, you know, go meet with in field and experience what clients experience. I'm like, wow, my gosh, I can't believe I do this for a living. And it's
It's
just a reminder I gotta do it more.
I love that you brought up, like an unexpected benefit of this industry or building a business like this is the relationships that you form with your partners, but also
Yeah.
colleagues, right? We do a really
Yeah.
good job of that. TN is making sure that the community is collaborative. And so you go to Virtuoso Travel Week and you're connecting with other GTN advisors and you're just like, wow, these are cool people. And then you're
Mhm.
connecting with the hoteliers and the other partners that are there and learning about these products that you didn't know existed, these travel experiences, the kind of things that you can design for your clients that are just beyond your wildest dreams. And
Right.
everybody is so passionate about travel that you're in this industry developing relationships with people who are just as passionate as you. It
Yeah.
might be slightly different type of passion. And so everyone's just happy because they're
Yeah.
they're they're getting to like throw themselves into their passion on a day in and day out basis. So
Yeah, I
um
know. I was kinda like that first virtuoso trip. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, these are my people." I
I
was
know.
like, I found my people. because we all geek out on the same stuff. I'm like, "Oh
Right.
my gosh, we're all there are more like me out there."
I don't look
So
weird next to them.
that's right. Right, so I love that, and those relationships, because I have a passion for it. I mean, I think people said in the beginning, like, "Don't go into the business," and they're right. Don't go into this business just because you wanna travel yourself, and you're working hard, and so
Yeah.
it's if you just wanna travel and don't wanna do the work,
Yeah.
don't do this.
Yeah.
Just go travel yourself. Go for it.
And
This
that's
business
actually
yeah,
something I say in the book, The
yeah,
Seven-Figure Travel Entrepreneur that I wrote last year, is the reason why I say start with why is one of the 7 components of building that seven-figure business is because I don't want people getting into this business for the wrong reasons or the egotistical reasons, which is exactly what
yeah,
you just said. Don't get into this business if you wanna travel more.
right,
If the reason why you wanna get into the business is really coming from ego and it's not coming from your heart, then you're not gonna last.
right,
You'll build a sustainable business if you build it on the right why, and the right why is the one that comes from your heart. It's 'cause you have a passion for it, you geek out on it, like, because you're this is a long journey and it's a bumpy journey, and
mhm,
you're gonna need to be able to dig deep when it gets rough,
right. That's
and
right.
the egotistical reasons, it's the same as, like, when you're interested, you do what's convenient, and when you're committed, you do whatever it takes, and if your heart is in it, you're gonna be much more committed. So,
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love
Because
that.
it's yeah, there's gonna be the ups and downs, and you have to keep focused on
Yeah,
why you're doing it, and
yeah,
yeah, and so then some of those things where you do get to experience these experiences, it's amazing, but I'm still when I'm there, I'm still working, I'm still doing the
yeah,
but
yeah.
I love it, it's like,
You
"I
love
can't
it.
believe I get to do this."
I know.
When I go on personal travel, I'll go and check out virtuoso hotels in that
Yeah.
city just because I love doing that,
Go do your own site inspections, and it's
That's
like,
right, that's right, and I'll be traveling with friends, I'm like, "Don't you wanna do this?" Like, "No." Like, "Alright, I'll see
I
you
really don't
later."
wanna see that other hotel, I
Right,
could care less. And
right,
you're
right.
like, "Oh, but I wanna see that one, and that one, and that one,
That's
and that
right.
one."
Exactly, exactly.
I can
Uh
relate. Oh my goodness. So this has been so much fun. Great conversation. Thank you so much, Lang, for joining us on the podcast today. And thank you, everybody, for listening. I think this was a great episode. And I know that you have absolutely inspired someone today. So
Oh, I hope
thank you.
so. That's great.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Meredith.
everyone. Have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.